Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Doug and I got another fountain pen for you today. I went out to the mailbox and I've got a package and I'm going to open it right now. And here's the package I just received in the mail. And let's speed it up. And here we have a squashed box. It looks like a WingSung. Of course, you know it's a 699 WingSung. Let's open it up here. Of course, this is a vacuum filler. It's been out for a while, but this new color, this blue, really intrigued me. Look at that. Pen's still cold. It's very cold outside. We've had the tail end of that bomb cyclone. Bomb?
A bomb? What you giving him a bomb for?
So there's a little bit of condensation on the pen. But it looks much nicer than I expected. It's a fairly inexpensive pen. And it is a vacuum filler. I'll have to put it through its paces and see how it performs. Feels weightier than I expected. And I think I'll clean it out first and then we'll ink it up. So I've taken the WingSung 699 apart, and it comes apart in many more pieces than I expected. The nib and feed came out very nicely and just unscrewed from the section. But there's a gold ring there that comes off really easily. Of course, there's the rubber O-ring there, or silicone O-ring. And then there's this ring that just butts up against this end. There's no fitting for it to sit in. I'd almost want to glue that back on again. And of course the piston comes out. And it looks like it was fairly well greased up with silicone grease. But the cap finial comes off. A little piece of plastic thread, and there's two pieces there. One piece that goes there, and then of course the clip goes there, and then it all screws back together again on the top. Now, once you've got that together, you know, there's no reason to take that apart. I just wanted to see whether it would come apart easily, and it does. And it's a lot more pieces than you'd expect. So, while I was looking at it, my first impression of it was that it's a beautiful color. It reminds me of that Chart blue that the Platinum 3776 comes in. And but I also noticed that it was pretty well scratched up. And I polished it up. The cap is now, I think, in really good condition. There's hardly a flaw on it now. But here's the barrel. And you can see that there's quite a bit of scuffing and sort of like feather marks that you get on ABS plastic. I'm not sure that that's what this is. It feels like injected molded plastic. Doesn't feel like turned resin. But I wanted to show you how I polished it up. I used this product, Meguiar's Mirror Glaze 9 Swirl Remover, and I put it on a micro mesh cloth, and then I just went back and forth like this, spreading it generously around the barrel and gave it a bit of a swirl motion so I don't get any straight lines. This is a very light cut polishing compound, and I've used it on guitar finishes that are fairly fragile, and it's worked wonders. And you can sort of go at it for as long as you want and add more as you see fit. And then I have this little microfiber hand glove, which I use a lot. You just throw it in the wash when you're done. I kind of look like a Muppet when I'm doing this. This is Fozzie Bear polishing up the barrel of my new WingSung 699. Thank you, Fozzie. Ah! There we go. Give it a few turns where the threads are. Get it off my fingers. And it's a lot shinier. I could go at that quite a few more times, and you'd see the very, very shiny results you get from that. So, the other thing I wanted to look at here was the comparison of my 626 WingSung, which I reviewed recently. The nib on this one compared to the nib on the 699. Now, this is sort of reminiscent of the difference between my Pen BBS 355 and the 456, that the nibs are sort of mirror images of each other in terms of where the gold is. These two are slightly different because this one has a sort of a cloud kind of a design on it. But this one's gold with silver accents, and this one's silver with gold accents, in my mind. But when I first got the 626, the nib, I thought, looked a lot like how this one looks, which is, it's like they've been bashed around in a bucket, and when you need a nib, you reach in the bucket and you grab one and you throw it on the pen, and so it gets this really scratchy kind of a look to it, which I don't like. So I'm going to try the same polishing thing I did on the other WingSung, which is to take some swirl remover, put it on a Q-tip, just like that, and then spend some time just polishing out that nib. Now, if you've got time, like I have, you can do this until the cows come home. For me, that would be forever because there are no cows in my end of Calgary. I have to go out of town to see the cows. Okay, so just after a couple of seconds, it looks a little bit better. I'm probably going to do that for maybe another 10 minutes or so. See whether I can polish that up a little bit more. But you see on this one, it was a lot improved and a lot more shiny. But I'm going to put the 699 together again, and we're going to ink it up and see how it writes. Okay, I put the pen back together again. It's all cleaned out and dry, and I've decided to put some diamine sapphire blue in this pen because I think that is a sapphire blue, if there ever was a sapphire blue. So let's give this filling mechanism, this vacuum filling mechanism, a try. I didn't do any greasing of that or that because it was fairly well greased right out of the box, which was crushed, but the pen was fine. So we're going to put the pen in the ink down to the filler hole, push the plunger down, and we get bubbles in the ink, which is a good sign. And then we wait a few seconds. Since this isn't a clear demonstrator, you don't really know what you've got. But it is transparent, so I should be able to see what kind of a fill I've got. Easier said than done. Doesn't look like a lot of anything. So I'm going to pull it back up again. Down in the ink. Lots of bubbles. About that much ink. Not a lot. And it's still dripping out. So I don't think I have a lot of ink in there. But I will do a writing sample anyway. And I'll examine it to see how much ink I've got. And maybe give it a couple more tries. But it doesn't feel like that vacuum is very good. But we'll be back with a writing sample. Okay, we're back after quite a bit of time with this pen. Realized I didn't really go over very carefully the features of the pen. I've put up measurements already, but overall the pen is quite good looking. Again, I mentioned that Chartres type blue, which is really, really lovely, and it's very transparent. One thing that I've noticed is that this material here on the cap and the body is that transparent, beautiful blue, but the finial and the blind cap and the section are all this opaque blue. It would have been nice if that was that translucent blue of the same material as the body. But again, the section is a nice size and everything. But the blue doesn't quite match. It's kind of a pale, especially when this is such a brilliant blue here. This is kind of a pale blue. I don't know whether it shows up on camera or not. But the clip is quite solid, and it's very springy. It feels, well, like you could bend it out of shape, but I do like that shape on it. There is, of course, the band of gold at the top by the finial that holds the clip on. And then there's this band of gold here, and then a small space, and then another larger band of gold with the $6.99 WingSung made in China etched into the band. The cap takes 1, 2, 2.5 revolutions to uncap. And then there's that gold and silver nib with the WingSung logo, China, and fine on it. And I'm leaking a bit. And then there's the section with the gold band at the bottom of the section, and the threads. The threads are very smooth and don't get in the way of your grip at all. It's a very, very comfortable pen holding in your hand. It's plenty long enough. I tried it when it first came out of the box to post it, and I thought it did post. It really doesn't. So I'm not even adding that to the measurements, because this gold band here seems to get in the way of the threads, which is unfortunate, because if it actually posted, that would be very convenient. Then we come down to the body, which has a really nice barrel shape. It steps down just slightly down to the blind cap, and there's another gold band there at the blind cap, which comes off. I also found that little ring that comes off, you got to look at the orientation of it. Part of it's indented and part of it isn't. So when you put it back together again, you got to get that orientation correct. Now, in the inking up that I didn't get much ink in it at all. What I found was that the vacuum isn't very strong in this vacuum filler, And so I was extending the rod and pushing it down fairly slowly, because that's how I do it with my 456, and then watching ink fill up. But I found after trial and error and lots of ink all over my fingers that if I push that piston down very quickly, I get a fairly decent fill. So right now, I'm sure you can't see it on camera, but I'm about that full, right there, that full of ink, which is about half, which isn't too bad at all. So it's just getting used to the mechanism, and it just doesn't feel like it has a very strong suction at all. The nib is what I have problems with, or I had problems with. So I'm going to do the writing sample now. I'm going to use it unposted. And we have the WingSung 699 Vac-filler. And this is a fine nib. The ink we have here today is Diamine. What is it? Diamine. Ah, it's the sapphire blue. And let's listen to this nib. So, it feels very nice. It's very smooth. And it is very wet. That's because of me. I worked on this nib for about, half an hour the first time, and then I wrote with it for a couple of hours. It seemed to get better as I wrote with it, but I examined it very, very carefully and really worked with the alignment of the tines. Once I got them aligned perfectly, they were out just really slightly. Once I got them aligned perfectly, and then I micromeshed with figure eights for about 10 minutes, it's gotten into this condition it's in now, which is very wet and very smooth. But out of the box, it was pretty horrible. But now, it's writing very nicely. It's actually writing very... Let's look at reverse writing here. When I first did this with reverse writing, and there was no writing there at all. And actually, this is fairly smooth because I did some micro mesh in reverse as well. The line I'm getting is actually between a fine and a medium, I'd say. In terms of line variation, you're not going to get very much. You don't want to push that nib. It's fairly stiff. In terms of fast writing, it keeps up very, very nicely. It feels very nice in the hand, and I think it's the weight of the rod, because the plastic on the pen is very, very light. But that rod adds a little bit of heft to it, so unposted, which is the only way you can write with it, it feels very nice. So, after writing with it for a few hours and fighting with it for a few hours, let's give this WingSung 699 an evaluation. In terms of design and build, out of 4. Writing and feel, the overall look, and the overall value. All out of 4, which gives us a score out of 16. In terms of design and build, the fact that this is pretty horrible just because of that band. It's not streamlined, as you can see. There's quite a gap there that you can feel, and it runs into those threads. The overall design, of course, is a Pilot 823. I think that's right. But the vacuum filler from Pilot, which is quite pricey. Of course, this was less than $20 US. But the overall design is pretty much an homage, if not a direct copy, of the Pilot. And but the build is, I think it could have been better. I've seen other WingSungs built better than this. There is a cap liner in there, which is good, but this is very light plastic, and I'm not sure about longevity of this. And the vacuum inside of there isn't very good at all, and it's only got one kind of a stop on that piston rather than 2. So a weak vacuum on this pen, and you could eyedropper it, I suppose, and get more ink in it. I found a way to get ink into it, but I'm going to have to knock it a couple of points for that and give it a 2. In terms of writing and feel, it really feels nice in the hand, and now it writes really nicely. So, but right out of the box it didn't, and so I'm going to give it a 3 for that. The overall look, I just love the look of this pen. I was pleasantly surprised by the beautiful color and translucency of this pen, and the feel, the heft of it. So I'm going to give it a 4 there. In terms of overall value, the pen is $18.99 with free shipping, and there are other pens in this price range that are arguably better value. So I'm going to knock it a couple of points for that. 2 out of 4 for that, which gives us 11 out of 16, which is a little bit surprising. I thought it was going to be a much better pen. It certainly looks nice, but it has some serious flaws to it. So, okay, let me interrupt myself. After I was editing the video, I thought that the fact that it didn't post was a bit odd, and the fact that that ring was so raised was odd. So I went back and looked carefully at the video and saw that I had actually switched that band for that band when I put the pen back together again. So I cleaned the pen out, removed the ring from there, and swapped them back again. And as you can see here, it actually fits the body perfectly. And so what happens is the pen posts, and it posts very, very deeply here. So I'm going to revise my measurements, showing the posted length, and I'm going to revise my evaluation and give it a 3 out of 4 for design and build, which makes it 12 out of 16 for our evaluation. So let me get back to the end of my video. Come to the end of another video. Thank you for watching. If you want to watch more videos from me on fountain pens and so forth, go ahead and subscribe. And if you like this video, please like. And if you hit that little bell on the side, you'll be notified whenever I come up with another video, which I'll be doing shortly because I have a couple more pens that came in the mail. So, again, thanks for watching. And that's all she wrote.